You're watching Open Agenda. Here's our host, Joe White.
Welcome to Open Agenda. I'm your host, Joe White. In the studio with us right now is Dr. Joe Venosa from Salisbury. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Jim Atkins from Mardella. Thank you.
Good morning.
So we were at the December 2nd meeting, and in the work session, it listed SWOT analysis. That's not actually what we went through. We didn't do a SWOT analysis. What we heard was a presentation that we've heard before, Jim, right?
Yeah.
Back in March from the Lorenzo Cropper, who's in charge of emergency services, and the Fire Chiefs Association about the results of their SWOT analysis that they completed a year ago, right?
Lorenzo Cropper, Emergency Services Director.
Tim Chrysler, Deputy Emergency Services Director.
I'm Wayne Strasburg. I chaired the task force meetings.
John Tyler, President of Wycomico County Fire Chiefs Association.
Billy White, Vice President, County Chiefs Association, Chief of Charlottetown.
Together a presentation going over a few different options in regard to EMS. Right now, the county spends approximately roughly $7 million on EMS overall. Comes out to roughly $500,000 per station with the 14 stations. So that's including the city of Salisbury. So it spends approximately $7 million overall for EMS. There are some challenges for EMS overall. Finding providers. There's a definite shortage of providers and trying to retain them. And I will tell you, I have not seen the salaries jump for ALS providers like I've seen in the last 2 years. All right, so the different concepts we're talking about is the one-in-one, ALS chase vehicle, and the standalone ALS units.
Joe, I want to bring in Mike Goldberg. Now, Mike watched the presentation on PAC 14, but when you start hearing numbers, you know, an extra $9 million here, $2 million there, capital cost here, it's scary because, I mean, we've been spending a lot of money on things like civic centers, and now
schools that are going to need way more money than we thought they would.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I mean, if you're having a heart attack in your home, you need to have trust that somebody's going to come help you, and that they're equipped with the knowledge and the tools to help you.
Yep.
Jim, I want you to stick around too, because there's some parts of this with your extensive background with the Mardella Fire Department. I want you to be able to explain some of the terminology they were using. So if you'd stick around, I want to see just how well Mike could understand it and how well the general public could. So stay with us. When we come back, we're going to bring in Mike Goldberg, and we're going to talk emergency services. Welcome back to Open Agenda. In the studio with us now is Mr. Mike Goldberg from Del Mar. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for sticking around, Jim. Yep. So talking about the SWOT analysis presentation that was given at the county council meeting on December 2nd, presented the findings from the SWOT analysis they did last winter.
They presented three options.
Okay. And Wayne Strasburg, who's a consultant for the county, he was the chairman of this committee. And then they had the Fire Chiefs Association represented and Lorenzo Cropper from the executive's office, correct? I think there are some areas here that need to be explained very well to the public. One, Jim, is you and I both understand an ALS and a BLS when they say that.
Yes.
But let's dive into that definition. I mean, ALS is advanced life support, right?
Correct, yes.
And this is a paramedic.
Correct, yes.
BLS is a basic life support, and that's like an EMT.
Yes.
Both require a lot of training, but a paramedic is going to have further training, medical style training, right?
Going to have further training and is going to be allowed to do medical procedures on you en route to the hospital.
I think one of the best explanations, and I heard this at the work session, is an ALS, a paramedic, can identify a heart attack, and an EMT or a BLS can suspect a heart attack. And that's a big difference because they can...
Yes, with an ALS, and especially if you're having a heart problem, I mean, they will do a 12 lead on you, on your heart, which is transmitted from the ambulance directly to a doctor in the hospital. So instead of basic life support where you get to the hospital and then the hospital tries to find out what is wrong with you, with an ALS advanced, that information is at the hospital. The doctor has it before you ever arrive and has set up and is prepared for what's getting ready to come through the doors when you get there.
So, Mike, I know you watched this presentation on PAC 14. The first option was a 1-in-1, is what they call it, and that is adding one ALS and one BLS to all 14 of the stations in Wicomico County, or really providing them the funding so that they can go out and hire these folks, in addition to what they already are getting, which is $500,000.
This is the ALS paramedic and BLS staffing into the existing departments. Utilizing this method, you would approximately meet your 10-minute response time for about 90 to 95% of your calls. This is our existing fire districts for the county. If you notice, there's a lot of white on that map. Those are the areas that we don't have that 10-minute or less response. A lot of those areas, it may run up to 12, 15 minutes response. 46 paramedics, 46 EMT drivers. I mean, a minimum of 4 shift supervisors. There's your estimated cost, what it would cost you annually for salaries. That's not counting upkeep or anything else. It's just the salaries.
Were you able to understand that first part?
It was a little bit tough. The presentation wasn't as cogent as it could have been, but yes, I basically understood that.
Yeah, Jim. I mean, we watched the gentleman from the Chiefs Association. They contradicted some of the presentation on the 1-in-1 about how enthusiastic the fire departments are to have supervisors come in, right? That's part of the contention.
I'm hearing the 1-in-1 option, which is what the county fire chiefs at the time unanimously have voted for. But I'm hearing that all these 46 employees, well, really 92, are county employees.
No, not on this option.
Oh, okay, I misread it then. Okay.
Yeah, the county would fund it, but the
So
funding would go to the
Well, I heard
fire.
the supervisors and
We're going to talk about 3 different concepts. This first concept that we've spoken to is just adding additional funding to existing processes. This is just, here's more money, go hire more people. That's all we've talked about with this. Now, there is some supervisory roles here, and whether or not those are county employees or those are independent volunteer fire company employees, I think is a conversation that needs to be had.
My question is, if you're just increasing funding to do what you're doing right now,
This is an option.
this is the option, the first one you're talking about.
Yes.
Where does the supervisors come in? Why are we hiring more supervisors? I see heads shaking down there. Can you answer that question, or you had the same question I asked?
Same question.
Okay.
This was
I mean-
brought up during the SWAT meetings when we had those last year. And the same question was going to be, if they're going to be, the fire companies are going to be given the money to pay these people, if our employees, we oversee them, what role are the supervisors going to?
Yes, to have county supervisors come in. Each fire station has an EMS, either an EMS captain or an EMS supervisor in that fire department, where they handle things, make sure that everything's up and running, that reports are filed, reports are accurate. They don't want somebody from the county to be telling them how to do their business. They know how to do their business. They're very proficient at it and have done it for a long time. The main confusion I saw the other night was, and this was stated by Chief White of Sharptown, who has been very involved in this from the start, that back in March or April of this year, the SWOT analysis was presented to the council. It was presented as a 1-in-1, one paramedic, one EMT, and the Chiefs Association unanimously agreed with that decision and thought that something was going to move forward with it.
And something being in the capital improvement plan and in the operating budget, right?
Yes.
What I'm seeing here is not an agreement between what you guys are asking and what the fire departments are are talking about doing.
I don't think so. From our at least I can't speak for Lorenzo. I can speak for myself. All we've sought to do with this presentation is provide the council with the different options that are available and the rough approximation of those costs. What the council chooses to do with this information is what the council chooses to do with that information.
I understand.
And Mr. Holloway, this is the same thing we went over with you gentlemen and ladies in March or April after the SWOT study was completed. We came in and had a work session at that time. And we were under the impression that the 1-in-1 had been approved, or that's the way it was going to go proceeding forward. And when we got the notification the week before last about this, it was kind of a surprise to us that we were having this meeting tonight to talk about it, because we thought, this is the way it was going. We didn't know anything changed or that, there needed to be some sort of update. We were kind of in the dark when we got notified about it.
And nothing happened this year.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready in another week to see the CIP for fiscal year 27. And from the CIP I saw at the Civic Center a few weeks ago, there's nothing in there again.
Yeah. So that was their recommendation. And this plan adds a lot of operating costs in addition to the $7 million the county's already spending, about $9 million more dollars to the operating cost of this 1-in-1. And that's saying they can find the personnel. And you and I both doubt that we can find enough personnel. You're talking 46 ALS and 46 BLS at the minimum, correct?
Well, I believe that is exactly at the minimum. I think I have not been able to figure out that number. There needs to be a way to train these individuals, get these individuals trained, and get them to stay and work in this county.
They have to be paid a competitive salary. They have to be brought up to parity with other fire departments or EMS units, in the area. It doesn't sound like they're there. No. So, it's difficult enough to attract, people to this particular profession. But I think it's even harder to retain them when they can get their training here, work for a few years, and go elsewhere where they're going to make a lot more money. So if you can't pay a competitive wage in any business, you're not going to keep employees.
Well, and a lot of people will tell you that, okay, maybe Anne Arundel, PG County is paying $8 or $10 an hour more than Wacomico. And then the first response you'll get from people is, well, who wants to drive to PG County and go to work? But what they don't realize and they don't understand is these paramedics work 24 on, 72 off. They work one day, they're off 3. Well, driving to PG County to work is not a hardship when you're only doing it 2 days a week, but you're making a lot more money doing it.
Well, then that leads us to the second option that was presented. And again, as we stated earlier, the Chiefs Association's already voted on that they want the 1-in-1.
Yes. But
the second option was to have 8 EMS stations built in Wacomico County.
Okay, this is another option, is going with an ALS chase unit concept countywide. And the biggest difference you'll see here is you're talking about 9 total units, and they will be strategically placed throughout the county. The 8 units and 1 as a roving supervisor. Projected annual cost is, if you did the dual medics, would be $5.6 million, not counting your supervisors. If you did the single medics, it's about $2.8 million plus approximately $400,000 for supervisors for salaries only. This is a fully county ALS chase system. The voluntary corporations will be doing the transport. And this idea is to leave their monies that they're getting at present and ask that they provide a guaranteed 24/7 driver EMT for the transport unit. If you're going to do this concept or look at this concept at all, you would be taking on building these chase unit stations. That's how you get your response down to approximately 8 minutes to cover the majority of the county. And I have a map here where they're proposing to put these similar to what Sussex County is running.
Okay.
Is this something you guys are, is this something you all recommend or you would like to see happen, or do you just like the 1-in-1?
I know we are, sorry, we are pretty set on the 1-in-1. Here's just a scenario why I feel that way. As chief of Powellville, number 8, I'm not exactly sure what road or location that one is on, but it is extremely common to have 2 or 3 ALS calls going on at a time. It's just, that's life. Say the unit from 7 and 8 are on that arrest. I have to wait for number 6 or number 8 to come to my district. How is that fair to my community?
And I point out the capital costs of building stations.
Yeah.
So that now, once they're built, that kind of disappear, but you still have the upkeep of those stations. So there are some ongoing costs.
There's a lot that is going to go into this. An average ambulance now, no frills ambulance, is over $400,000 for a brand new ambulance. And
Now, this plan would actually have capital costs to build and outfit stations. And you and I were talking about this at the meeting. $400,000 for an ambulance gets you a chassis and a box.
A box, yes.
But
it does not get you the $100,000 or $150,000 worth of equipment that you're going to have to put inside that ambulance when you get it.
Nor does it give you the office space or
Yes.
that they're going to need if they're outside of the existing fire department buildings. That's a lot of capital improvements there, in addition to a heck of a lot of operating expenses.
And then you still have to maintain those buildings. There's another operational cost, and that still is saying that we're going to fund the fire departments at $500,000 a year times 14.
I would just say this would be in addition to the current $9 million that we're already providing in funding.
And you have to staff those stations, and we can't staff what we have now.
Exactly.
If we don't work very, very hard to figure that one out, we're still going to have the same issues that we have right now in terms of response times.
Are we going to build more and staff them?
No, it sounds like a dead end.
Yeah.
And part of Mr. Cropper's presentation was that they wanted the fire departments to guarantee there'd be EMT transport. Well, I think you're going to still run into, like you said, staffing issues. Yes. The interesting one, and to be honest with you, I was kind of frustrated because I felt like we had rewound the clock.
We've been here before.
Yeah, we've seen this, and in the meantime, we have faced so many different other, quote unquote crises in this county that have deflected our attention to something important like this. But Councilman Holloway brought it up. Was the chase units, which the option there is you still fund the fire departments like you're doing, but you're adding one chase unit to the east side and one chase unit to the west side.
Did you ever consider just buying one or possibly 2 chase units and placing them in the areas either with the highest volume or the lowest response time, and just see how it would work for a year or two?
Yeah, Joe, I think
we talked about that before, Wayne.
I think in solving this problem over time, we're going to have to grow into it. And I would suggest to you that a realistic approach to this would be something like you just said, because we can probably source the personnel that we need. We can place equipment in the areas that need the equipment the most, and we'll learn a lot from that. And we can afford to do that quickly, and we can begin to cut down on the response times in those areas I call deserts. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think
That was already.
these folks are the folks who can give us guidance on where should we place
See that in the presentation.
That was actually suggested, Mr. Holloway, and not.
What we can't do is not do anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have to begin to move this ball down the road. These folks are the experts. They can tell us where these units ought to be placed, but I think we need to get on it. And I think this capital improvement cycle and budget cycle, we really need to tackle this.
And they talked about, Chief Tyler talked specifically that they're kind of doing this on the east side now, where if there's a ALS call out in Pittsville, the paramedic from Powellville is starting to head that way. They're starting to do that coverage.
One of the things that over the past 6 to 8 months that have kind of a shift on the east side is if my paramedic's sitting in Powellville and there's a critical type call, they're going to start that way. They already know, as chief, they have permission to, whether you call it bidding up, jump the call, they're just going to get on the radio and say, I'm available. Do you want me to respond to whatever other unit that is? And ultimately, that's the bottom line. That's the way it should be.
Which is great to see. I mean, that's the teamwork you want to see. But then we could add to this just two independent chase units that would help fill in the gaps from the city of Salisbury, as well as support. I think one thing a lot of folks miss, and I see this over at Parsonsburg, is there's a lot of calls that are accidents on Route 50, and that could be on the west side or the east side. That's more than one ambulance needed.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time.
Oh, yes,
you know.
yes.
I think this is it's kind of a combination of option 1 and option 3, which is the chase units in addition to the 1-in-1, and in a phased-in approach. And it's interesting, like we said, it seems like we're back in March. We've wasted 7 or 8 months, and we don't expect that we're going to see this in the CIP for the fiscal year 27, right?
Right.
Well, I'd like to bring Dr. Venosa back in, and I want to talk to him a little bit about, because he was at the meeting as well, from a future projection standpoint, what should be the next steps that we should follow? Okay?
Yes, sir.
All right. So stay with us. When we come back, Dr. Joe Venosa will be back in, and we're going to talk about where we think the future of EMS service in Wycomico County should go. Welcome back to Open Agenda. Dr. Joe Venosa, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you.
Jim, thanks for sticking around. So we had a chance to see the presentation, and we had a chance with Mike Goldberg to discuss it. Mm-hmm. Joe, I know you did not grow up in the fire department like Jim and I did, but as a taxpayer, as a citizen, does it make sense to you that does it feel like we're moving towards a solution that we could be proud of in, say, 20 years?
I'd like to say yes, but I don't see a lot of concretized plans yet. I see, as you've indicated, I see concepts of 3 plans and a sense of what we can do based on some of the past successes. But I got to tell you, that presentation didn't really reassure me much.
Well, to me, the frustrating part is I feel like we've wasted 8 months.
Well, this is,
and in that time, we've had crises about landfills and
the
civic centers and all this kind of stuff.
And as you said, we've kicked the can down the road to the point where, now we're going to wait on a presentation for the CIP. And again, even if she puts in some of this stuff, it's going to take a lot of time and a lot more money to get where we need to be.
We should have been having conversations. And Joe brought up about the pay. And you and I disagree with part of what was in the presentation about the pay. I mean, Mr. Lorenzo Cropper's presentation showed ALS or paramedics and BLS EMTs making more money than what you have discovered is the starting rate on most of the fire departments, right?
Yes. Well, and the information I have came out of the SWOT analysis report.
Okay.
So I mean, it's their numbers that I'm sitting here looking at.
Okay, so for us and for me and the audience, let me just clarify. There's just a couple of sort of points. So for a full-time EMT hourly, and I'll just pick one, Fruitland, $18 an hour.
Yes.
$18 an hour.
That's less than Subway.
That's basically what you get paid at Dunkin' Donuts or Subway, starting rate. That's what our full-time EMTs in Fruitland Volunteer Fire Company make, according to the...
Well, and let's talk about the education requirements on that.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And again, just for comparative analysis, even the Salisbury Fire Department, right, which pays about $20.49, which I think is remarkably low, too. I think you're beginning to see why there's some shortages, systematically. But to your point about the education, how many hours does it take for somebody who wants to kind of be, and serve the community to do these important jobs, whether they're full-time EMT, full-time paramedic, or even part-time? what are the educational hours and costs?
Well, if you look at an EMT, then let's stay on the EMTs. You're looking at, depending on who gives the class, whether it's done at Warwick or the Maryland State does it, you're looking at 185 to 210 hours to get an EMT certification. And these classes, for a person who has a job, are at night or on weekends. A lot of them have at least one day a month mandatory on a weekend. And if you're a high school student who has an interest in going into this profession, you have to find a class. And a very good example of that is MIFRE. And
what is MIFRE?
MIFRE is the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute, which is in charge of all the training for the state of Maryland. MIFRE and UMES in Princess Anne have partnered up with a program. Well, they will pay $15 an hour for someone who is interested in pursuing the fire service EMT profession. So you get paid $15 an hour to attend this class, which is a start, which is good. My understanding from talking to people, the biggest problem is juniors and seniors in high school are the people who are interested in this program.
And they can't go.
But the hours are not conducive to them to be able to go.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, once you get to the EMT level, you have a requirement of approximately 6 months before you can even apply to become a paramedic. And then when you are accepted to a paramedic school, which Warwick does have and MIFRE has, it's 1,500 hours to get that certification and that license to be a paramedic at a cost of approximately $6,500 to $6,600.
That's got to be part of the strategic planning.
Yeah.
So you do a SWOT analysis as part of a strategic plan. This is something in my business career I have lots of experience with. SWOT analysis is a tool. It's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We've identified some strengths, some threats, some opportunities, and some weaknesses. That's great.
A lot of
weaknesses.
A lot of weaknesses. But the other side of having a strategic plan is, what are you going to do to go forward? And my point is, back in March, we were the jumping off point. And if you remember, the county executive was very boastful at the time that she was going to support the 1-in-1. The 1-in-1 would put one ALS and one BLS in every of the 14 fire departments at county expense. So we already spent $7 million. This is an additional $9 million, and I think that's on the low end. So you're talking a $16 million investment. If you're going to make that high of an investment, you would want a strategic plan.
You don't have to have people in the buildings.
Well, you need people in the buildings, but how do you get the juniors and seniors in high school
how do you
who
get
can
people?
funnel in to take the class?
Look, as from where I'm sitting, and again, I don't think anybody can dispute this. It seems that not only are there impediments for people that want to get involved in this profession, especially on the younger end. This is actually this is almost going out of the way to intentionally discourage people from eventually getting into these jobs that we need.
Well, here's the point: we're turning the corner for the fiscal year 27. I mean, at the next county council meeting on December 16th, the county executive is presenting her capital improvement plan. If this is not part of that, if this is not leading towards the budget that will be submitted in April for fiscal year 27, we've wasted another year. We've also wasted the time of a lot of volunteers, the Chiefs Association, to meet to do a SWOT analysis. I think eventually folks get tired of government asking them to volunteer their time to not further the discussion.
Especially when it's life and death.
Well, and I think the comment was made. I don't think it was made. I know it was made Tuesday night by Chief White of Sharptown. We thought all this was settled and taken care of back in March and April, and was surprised a week or two ago when they got a phone call about having a SWOT analysis meeting. Thought this was all done, put to bed, and this is where we're going.
Yeah. Well, let's hope that our elected officials, all of them, county council and the county executive, at least give us some answers. So thank you both. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching this episode of Open Agenda. We'll be back later this week with another new episode.
what other entity out there in public safety is getting up at 6 in the morning to do breakfasts and fundraisers